go. Let's go. All right. We are live. Hello, boys.
Are you sure we're live?
You don't have to respond. Yep, we are live. You didn't have to respond. That's all right. Hello, audience. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are in this wonderful world. I am Matt Kimball with Moor Insights Strategy, and I am joined by my friends, Will Townsend. Raise your hand, Will. There we go.
Hello.
Smith Goodson, raise your hand, Paul. There we are. The two smartest guys I know to talk about tech and all the cool stuff going on in today's world. So thanks for joining us. We got a jam-packed podcast to get through. But before I do that, I just want to say we have to start every podcast with a disclaimer. Don't trust a single word we say. We're all charlatans. And if you make any investments based on what you hear today, you have bigger issues in this. Thank you for shaking your heads. Yes, you've got bigger issues. So with that said, it is episode 30. I don't have any fun facts on the number 30. I'm sorry, I got a little bit tied up on a previous call.
Well, if you add the two digits together,
you get 3.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, Paul. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. That was funny. All right. So we have a lot to talk about. Infoblox, PensionDanmark. I'm not familiar with that. Intel, HPE, Google, and our friends at Pure Storage. We're going to fly through this fun stuff in this wonderful last Friday of September. And I think we're going to start with our good friend Will. And Will, you really are trying to get all Paul, aren't you?
I'm trying.
Infoblox cracked the code on hybrid multi-cloud management. That's not really Paul, because that's not creative. That's just
I know. I've got a funner one for my second, but let me hit this. So
yeah.
I've been working with Infoblox for like the better part of the year. Scott Harrell's the CEO. I got to know Scott when he was at Cisco, and Scott's now been on the ground there at Infoblox going on 2 years, and there was a pretty big announcement that rolled out this week. I'll also let our viewers and listeners know that I'm publishing a Moor Insights Strategy brief on this subject. It's about Infoblox's universal DDI product suite. So why is this a big deal? Well, when you look at DNS, DHCP, and IP address management within the public cloud, typically those operations are pinned to each public cloud service provider. So you have a bespoke, prescriptive set of management operations that follow each of those. And this becomes really complex when you look at the fact that most enterprise organizations are multi-cloud and many of them are hybrid. They're leveraging virtualization and that sort of thing. And that just introduces a ton of complexity. So what Infoblox is doing, and they have been a leader in DNS for over 2 decades, but they have figured out how to orchestrate this, Matt and Paul. It's pretty amazing. And so you've got a single pane of glass. So it'll orchestrate, a number of different, public cloud, solution providers, whether it's AWS or Azure or GCP or Oracle. It also allows you to manage your operational infrastructure on premises as well. And if you think about it, this is huge. This has the potential to improve visibility, reduce operational expense, and address potential vulnerabilities with these gaps in cloud service productivity and that sort of thing. So I think it's pretty compelling. But I have been reading lately that there are some enterprises that are moving a lot of their workloads from the cloud back on premise. So I don't know, Matt, what do you think about all this?
Well, yeah, there is so can I ask you a question before I give you my thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
Who would you kind of throw up as like, Infoblox's major competition in this space. This is IP management or TCP/IP, network addressing management.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of smaller companies that are trying to do this, but I think the advantage that Infoblox brings is just, again, like 2 decades of doing this, and they've cracked the code on how to orchestrate this in a single pane of glass, which this has been a huge issue for a number of years. So I don't know why Infoblox finally figured it out, and they're the first. We might expect others to follow, but I can't really think of any other companies that have kind of the size or the scale or the resources to do what they're doing. So.
Multi-cloud environments are not simple. I mean, managing a bunch of DNS systems and different user interfaces, and you can make all kinds of mistakes, and
Yeah, and it's very manual, right? So Paul makes a great point. And so with what Infoblox is doing with this universal DDI product suite is they're automating and orchestrating all this stuff. So no manual configuration, which is prone to errors and that sort of thing. So errors lead to network downtime and security vulnerabilities.
Yeah, you can even have forgotten DNS records and decommissioned applications that are hanging around out there, and zombie servers, all kinds of weird things.
Yeah. And to that, Paul, you talk about repatriation, right? It's not just repatriation, it's mobility. So I am, as an enterprise, I am moving stuff back from the cloud for a number of reasons, right? But I'm also moving things from cloud to cloud, and I'm also moving things from on-prem to off-prem, as circumstances dictate, kind of bursting. That's what elasticity is all about. So it's like these are real issues that IT deals with. And you're right, Paul. I mean, we've been dealing with DNS issues and managing the network aspect of it's been going on since before the cloud, right? I mean, the first .com, this was a huge issue back in the late 90s. So it should be kind of curious to see how, and I'm sure you'll do a follow-on at some point, but kind of over the next couple quarters, how this lands with and how much the big enterprise organizations kind of embrace this and build into their management frameworks.
Yeah, no, I'll be definitely closely following it, and I always like to say, proof is in the eventual deployment, right? So looks pretty strong on the surface, but yeah, I'll definitely come back in a few quarters and provide a report card.
It's a compelling story for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll be publishing your brief up on Moor Insights, but we'll also publish it in the show notes too if it's up in time.
It should be landing today, hopefully. So we'll be sure to do that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to Qubits For Kroners. That sounds so cute. It has to be from our dear friend, Paul Smith-Goodson. Am I right, Paul? Is that you?
Actually, I mean, it tells everything. I mean, I probably don't even need to talk about it, that title.
Nope.
I will. It's actually PensionDanmark, the labor market pension fund owned by about almost a million Danish members. And they invested about 70 million Danish kroners in atom computing, which is about $10 million. They felt that it's kind of, I think, progressive for a pension fund to invest in quantum, but I think it's a pretty good deal. Atom computing previously mentioned or previously announced that they had established Denmark as its European headquarters. I've got a Forbes article I wrote on that a couple months ago. But having this investment by the pension fund strengthens Denmark's position in the global computing landscape. So I think it's a good deal for the national state as well as the union members. The funds are actually coming from the previous funds actually came from Denmark's Export and Investment Fund. It's a state-owned fund, and Denmark is pretty high on quantum. They've got a 5-year photonic deal in the works to build a fault tolerant quantum computer using photons. So they're into several different modalities now. The relationship that Adam has with Denmark is in sync with the existing United States quantum information and sciences technology cooperative agreement that we've got with Denmark. So, and Atom Computing is making some pretty strong technology moves. They're doing collaborations with Microsoft. They're providing the hardware, and Microsoft's providing the software. And they're doing some really strong work with logical qubits, which is important to error correction. Microsoft has got a lot of, surprisingly, Microsoft has a lot of really deep quantum resources, and having this collaboration. They've also got collaboration with Quantinuum, and having this hardware collaboration allows Microsoft to do a lot of work that I think has probably been pent up for a while. The Forbes article will be printed out probably next week on this relationship. And one of the things that Adam is also doing, they announced the world's first gate-based quantum computing platform over 1,000 qubits, and they're currently working on that. They haven't published a paper on that, and I'm anxious to see that. It was originally founded by two academics back in 2018, and they had $5 million in seed money, which is really pretty scam fun. And they last year they announced that they're building a 1,200 qubit plus machine that is still in the works, and they've been doing some experiments with Microsoft on that too. So anyway, it looks like a pretty good deal. I'm looking forward to the paper on Atom, and looking forward to more investments and seeing what the Europeans are going to do with Atom and some of the other quantum computers we got here.
Man, Paul, it sounds like the Dutch love quantum as much as they do tulips and bicycles.
And wooden shoes.
Wooden shoes. Paul, what is there some, you mentioned this investment from the pension fund in Denmark. Is there some is there something special? You said that Adam enjoys a relationship with the government, I believe. Is there some kind of special connection there that makes hey, Danes for qubits kind of thing? I mean, what's the
when Adam announced that they were going to make Denmark their European headquarters, they got a $10 million investment from the government.
That's okay.
And Denmark is very, very high on quantum. I mean, they're really looking at quantum from.
Okay, so that's my question. But that's my question. Is there a reason why, like Denmark or Scandinavian country would be so high on quantum? Is it just because we're so forward?
Well, I mean, Denmark is actually, one of the original homes of quantum computing, quantum mechanics, that type of thing. So Niels Bohr.
Of course, Niels.
That legacy still hangs around.
Come on, man.
The Niels Bohr Institute just got, I think they got like $200 million investment from somebody else. So.
Okay, I got you now. Yeah, Atom Computing seems to be filled with PhDs across the board.
And Denmark has a lot of quantum-related scientists over there. So,
thanks to Niels. Okay, all right. Let's go to easy stuff. Going on from like the really smart stuff. It's a hard transition following you, Paul. I'm not going to lie, because it's like you're like talking at levels that are so high or so low. I don't know kind of which direction to go, that it's hard to kind of rationalize or normalize after that. But that's
are you saying I'm babbling?
No, I'm saying you have technology, you have topics that are so far ahead of where I am intellectually that it's hard to come down off that mountain. That's what I mean. No,
Mhm.
you're not really, you're too smart. With that said, and that's not really a good setup for my topic, which is Intel. Intel making a statement in the data center. So Intel had their big data center launch this week, where they launched Intel Xeon 6P and Gaudi 3. And I'll go real quickly on these. So in this latest generation of Intel, they have two cores, an E core or an efficiency core, and a P core or performance core. The E core is focused on, kind of scale out workloads, lots of cores, compute density. Their initial release had 144 cores and a CPU, and they're going to be launching a 288 core part in Q1 of next year. And that's really just cloud providers and scale out virtualized infrastructure. Really good part. They did that in June. Just this past week on Tuesday, they launched Xeon 6P Performance Core. This is your AI kind of workhorse CPU that's going to power the most compute intense workloads in your data center. Also, really rich from a core perspective, 128 cores, 128 high performing cores, lots of PCIe 5. They have traditional memory and multiplexed memory to increase performance of workloads. And then they have all their acceleration engines. Really good parts, really good part. It comes a few weeks ahead of AMD launching Turin. Here's what I like about what they did with 6P. They demonstrate like significant gains from a performance and power perspective, 1.9 power performance improvement over the last generation, and almost 2 times performance improvement in just raw performance. They demonstrate AI goodness, up to 5.5 times better performance on AI inferencing than EPYC. And they take the unusual step of actually kind of getting ahead of where AMD is with Turin and comparing 6P against what AMD will launch in the next few weeks based on what AMD released at Computex and Hot Chips. So they're being really aggressive with it, which tells me they're super confident. They're back from a manufacturing perspective. This was a 3 nanometer process. They're back from a performance perspective, and they're back from a billboards perspective. Really good to see. It's still going to be hard to stem the tide against AMD, who has kind of owned this market for the last couple of years. And then Gaudi 3 is their AI acceleration part. It's an inference part. Paul, I don't know if you've been following this, but for the audience, NVIDIA has Hopper, they have Blackwell, AMD has the MI300. They have their GPUs that provide incredible performance for training large models. Gaudi is not a GPU. It's an ASIC. It's a true accelerator. It's got one function only. And really, Intel's put a lot of effort around working on the inference performance for Gaudi 3. And here's what they're doing. They're getting a part out there that's going to do a really good job on inference. They're building a software ecosystem around it. They're building a tool chain around it, and they're building muscle memory from a software perspective around it. And then in a year or so, they're going to launch their GPU, codenamed Falcon Shores, and all of that software is going to port over without any lifting into Falcon Shores. So it's providing a kind of a soft landing into the GPU market for Intel. And Falcon Shores will be behind from a performance perspective as it relates to AMD and NVIDIA. It's going to be a 1.0 product versus parts that have been in market for some time, but it's a good start for them, and it gives them something to build on. So I'm going to leave it at that. I think it's a great move. I'm really impressed with Xeon. I think Intel's found its groove again.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing the right stuff with Gaudi to set up for future success.
Hey, Matt, I'm going to use your topic as a gratuitous opportunity for me to plug a research paper that I'll be publishing on behalf of Intel here in the not too distant future. It's around secure AI. So I had to get that out. So viewers and listeners, kind of be on the lookout for that. It should be publishing next week. But Matt, what's your thought on, as I dug into that, I did learn about AMX and that extension for Xeon Scalable.
Yep.
It provides some AI workload, sort of enhancement and improvement, right? And one of the things that I learned in doing this paper with Intel is like, one of the big misnomers is that, CPUs do a lot of this AI heavy lifting, right? It's not just GPU.
Yeah, well, yeah, the dirty secret is most AI workloads are CPU only workloads today. You can thank generative AI, and Paul might disagree with me, and training large models as the impetus for GPUs to play in, but especially in the kind of, let's call it the discrete or discriminatory AI that's been around for quite a while.
Yeah.
That's been CPU bound and not necessarily a GPU assist. And what AMX does is it takes all of the complex work associated with AI, all that kind of matrix kind of work, matrix processing that has to take place, and it offloads it onto a dedicated accelerator. So it allows the CPU to do what it does, and it offloads this work into this accelerator. This is something they did 2 generations ago. I talked about it back 2 years ago about how they were actually setting up for longer term success, because they've done it with that. They did it with database, data analytics, data streaming. They built these discrete engines around Xeon to offload this like really complex, these complex tasks, right? To silicon that's specifically designed to support those tasks. And so before, they were behind the curve from a performance perspective, but now they have parity with CPU performance, right? They have parity with the number of cores, and they have all of this additional IP that sits around the CPU that's going to make these workloads just shine. That's how they get to, that 5.5 time performance advantage they claim around inference. It's a legitimate claim they're making, because they're able to take advantage of these accelerators. And that's what I think they've done so very well at, understanding that, when you're building SoCs now, it's not just, traditional scalar processing, right? It goes much beyond that, and you've got to build a complex that supports all of these different requirements. And Paul, you want to weigh in? Sorry. Or not. Paul, do you have any thoughts on the GPU front and what they're doing with regards to, or the CPU and what they're doing in regards to NVIDIA and AMD?
The only thing I can say, when you're moving AI from prototypes to large scale production, you have to make sure that hardware and software and everything's going to scale in the right way, so for enterprise demand. Same thing with power efficiency.
That's another one. That's an interesting point. One last point on that, because you bring something up interesting. They actually, from a power efficiency perspective, they effectively doubled their power efficiency over the last generation. So when you look at kind of servers, typically operate in anywhere between 30 and 60% kind of utilization rate. And when you look at the heart of that kind of space, 40 to 50%, they were literally getting twice the power performance that they were getting out of the previous generation. And I'm sure AMD is going to have similar kind of claims with Turin. But it's nice to see them get their swagger back, from a manufacturing perspective, from a design perspective, and from a perspective. I could talk about this forever, and I know that we're going to be pressed for time. So if you guys had any other questions, we can address them. But if not, I'll move on to Will's next big.
Well, do we want to talk just real briefly about all the conspiracy theories around Qualcomm and ARM potentially? Is it even worth going there?
It's not. The ARM one is maybe the silliest of all.
Yeah, ARM is the silliest, right? I saw our esteemed fearless leader shares something about Bloomberg leaking something around ARM. It's just the conspiracy theories just get ridiculous around this sort of stuff.
They do. And look, I will tell you this. I was at AMD during a time that was much darker than what Intel is going through now. Intel is going through a reorientation and reorienting, and they're going to and they have their bearings down, and they just need to execute against those bearings, right? Yeah. They're there. It's like everything's lined up. They charted their course, and they're executing 3 nanometer, Intel 2, Intel 1.8, everything is lined up for Intel to be successful. Mm-hmm. And their roadmap is super solid. I was at AMD when it was much worse than what Intel is going through, and it was a weekly rumor. HPE was buying us. Right. Intel was going to buy us. Yeah. Everybody was going to buy us. We're going to go, private equity was going to take us over. And it's like, it's all baloney. None of those rumors had any teeth. But, folks speculate. It bumps the stock up a little bit, and so you can buy and sell and earn a little bit of money off it. Yeah. The Intel stuff is equally stupid. I mean, it's just, the Qualcomm is somewhat feasible, but it's not going to happen. I shouldn't even say it's feasible. I shouldn't give it any air. Sorry. I know.
Yeah. Sorry, buddy.
No.
Putting that can of worms, but I thought it was worth having a little discourse on it.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. All right. Let's jump on to our next fun topic with HPE supersizing AI with Aruba Central updates. Wow.
Yeah. Right. Are you more impressed with that headline?
No, but go ahead.
Let me provide some explanation. So,
Paul, are you impressed?
I am. I have to say, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm not necessarily a McDonald's fan, but I was a fan of Morgan Spurlock, and he did a lot of documentaries. One of his most famous ones was Super Size Me, where for 30 days he had to eat nothing but McDonald's. And he couldn't ask for the supersize, but if it was presented to him, he had to accept it.
He just recently passed away.
He did pass away, and I wanted to mention that as well. He was so entertaining. He had a TV show at one point, and Morgan, rest in peace, because I really enjoyed a lot of your documentaries. He did one on chicken as well, Tyson, and exposing some of the less than attractive aspects of the chicken industry in the U.S. But anyway, with that said, I do want to talk about get back to
one thing. Well, if you could have worked, what was it, the Mac Hamburger in that title, it would have been great. You guys remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We digress. Okay. Well, I'm gonna bring it back home to Aruba. So, supersize being that, hey, listen, we're the company is very, very close to announcing its acquisition and close of Juniper Networks, but there's nothing stopping either company as they operate separately right now. Juniper had a host of AI announcements recently, and Aruba did this week as well. And I covered this on social media, but these are really AI enhancements to Aruba Central, which is the management plane for Aruba networking solutions. So they're integrating new AI insights. They're also integrating OpsRamp, and I know OpsRamp is something, Matt, that you're very familiar with, and it was a key acquisition that was made by HPE some time ago. But what Aruba's doing is they're integrating OpsRamp so that they can provide multi-vendor support and device monitoring of not only HPE equipment, but Cisco, Juniper, Palo Alto Networks, you name it. Mm-hmm. And then also some of these AI enhancements are going to improve device configuration and provisioning. It's going to expand what they're doing from a network observability standpoint. I mean, that's an area that certainly I believe Cisco has been a leader in forging. Cisco's still trying to figure out the monetization of that, but I think there's lots of promise there, and certainly with Splunk, I think that effort will be supercharged. And then also they're leaning into AI generated network optimizations, as well as using AI to improve digital experience monitoring. So all the right things, again, supersizing the AI stack. And, hey, I think, once the Juniper acquisition closes, we're going to see a lot more AI supersizing from HPE. But what do you think?
I love the multi-vendor aspect of this.
Yeah.
It's and when they, so OpsRamp is one, and Morpheus is another acquisition they made. I think we covered it a few weeks ago. It's another where you kind of get from networking all the way to the server platforms, the support, observability, support, management for everything on your network. We don't live in a world anymore where it's all HPE or all Dell or all Lenovo or Cisco, whatever, right? It's a heterogeneous environment, but that shouldn't require you to have 20 consoles to manage these vendors. So I love the fact that they're not kind of siphoning it off. They're actually opening up and embracing this multi-vendor support. To me, that is the most. It's all great, but to me, as an ex-IT guy, that's the stuff that gets me the most excited.
Yeah, and they're really helping customers, manage that multi-vendor infrastructure. I mean, and to your point, Matt, it's done for obvious reasons. I mean, best of breed, features and capabilities, but also, leverage, cost leverage, right? I mean, procurement gets involved in a lot of this stuff. So I think, in doing that, they're meeting customers where they're at. And hey, I'm sure that HPE is going to work on certain integrations with its hardware and software stack. They're going to deliver added value, right? Yeah. But I do like sort of the open nature of what they're doing with OpsRamp.
Well, it used to be the hook was tying the server to your management platform. That was the hook to keep customers. But I think the real stickiness now is in the software layer, in the control plane. And if you can be the one control plane to rule them all, then you're advantaged, I think. But my 2 cents.
Yeah,
my 2 cents.
I agree. Paul, anything to add there?
No, I'm just kind of curious. How many endpoints and how many devices are they looking at for this?
That's a good question. I didn't go that deep, into the announcement, but
I think it's a couple of billion of endpoints and 4 or 5 million devices, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a theoretical limit, right, to the scalability of that, but that's a heck of a lot. And if you look at sort of network segmentation and how that's all managed, I think there's not really theoretically there is a limit, but yeah.
1 billion. Okay. Who's a fan?
$1 billion.
Who's a fan of Leonardo DiCaprio? I think Paul is, because his next title kind of says it all. CAPTCHA If You Can.
That was a great movie, by the way, with Tom Hanks and a great story. Yeah.
Based on real life experiences. Yeah. Sorry. What's up, Paul? What's up with CAPTCHA If You Can?
Well, 3 researchers from ETH Zurich created an AI that can solve Google's reCAPTCHA V2. It's image-based and video-based. It's 100% accurate. So that means that the human verification is no longer valid,
Oh, wow.
And they use advanced machine learning techniques. They use a model called, I'm sure you've probably heard of it, YOLO V8, to solve these CAPTCHA systems. And they, like I said, they got 100% success rate. YOLO is a computer vision model. It's probably one of the best well-known models. YOLO stands for You Only Look Once. That's the way to detect items with, just a simple look at it. So the previous work that was done on this, trying to see if machine learning could crack the CAPTCHAs, was only like a 65 or 70% success rate. So 100% rate obviously is, I think, pretty impressive. They compared the performance of the automated system with a human solver, and there was no difference in the number of challenges that was needed to pass the CAPTCHA. So that's interesting. So the key findings were that, obviously a bot can outperform a human. They found out that browser history and if you had cookies in there when Yoel looked at it, that made it easier to crack the CAPTCHA.
So what does this mean for CAPTCHA, Paul? I mean, does this render it?
I think, yeah. In fact, one of the comments in the paper, it said, basically, this paper shows that we're now officially beyond CAPTCHAs. And I think I agree with that. So,
man, that is disruptive.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty significant. I mean, for AI to be cracking security like that, especially ones so prominently used like CAPTCHAs. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's so broadly used. That's super disruptive.
Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting one to bring up.
Yeah.
Okay. Now so we went from
I'm a little nervous.
Yeah.
All
right, so let's move on.
Well, here, that's basically it.
Yeah.
Let's move on to something a little brighter, huh? So we're all doomed. All of our bank accounts and credit card accounts are going to be bypassed
by Skynet, apparently.
Swiss folks. Swiss thermal neutral.
Yeah, obviously we're going to have to get more dynamic and more sophisticated ways to determine what are the human and what is the machine trying to enter that system. So,
for sure.
Yeah, great. Thanks. All right. So let's move on. Making storage simple 101. I'll go through this one quickly. So here's the deal. Pure Accelerate, the company's annual conference, their Europe edition of this kicked off this week. And so Pure is interesting. They're moving everybody. They're really all about the cloud operating model for storage, subscription-based, even, consumption-based, subscription-based, on-prem or in the cloud, it doesn't matter. And they do a great job of training their customers to consume like they would consume cloud services. So when they release an update, it's like a tranche of updates across the portfolio, right? It's not just this product received this new feature or this patch. It's here are 4 things we just did, and they span the portfolio. So they announced this week their kind of second half tranche, if you will, of updates, and they span everything from tech to operational to financial. The highlights for me, the net is they're really driving toward abstraction of complexity from the storage game, and this is if you've spent any time in IT managing storage environments, you get what this means, because these storage environments are old. Storage has been around as long as companies have been around, right? So you've been around for 20 years. You have a storage environment that may very well be 20 years old, and it's very siloed, and it's different stacks of storage that are being managed independently, utilized independently. So when you think about AI, when you think about analytics, when you think about building new apps and having to pull from all of these different siloed storage environments, it's an absolute headache. So what Pure is doing is they're putting the front end in front of that to simplify the management and the access to all of this data. And that's what they did that's more of what they did with this release. Real-time enterprise file, real-time file for enterprise does a lot. They do a lot around storage tiering, so you don't have to move data across storage types anymore. They call it zero move tiering. And I'm going through this quickly. I wrote a Forbes piece that'll be going live either today or Monday. And that's really where to go to get all the detail. But they do that. They have a VMware or a VM assessment tool to help you better rationalize your use of virtualization and storage for virtualization. They've built in ways to consume storage more efficiently and affordably. It's just across the board. They've released all of these updates that really drive toward kind of where I think everybody wants to get to, and that is that end state where you were talking about. We're talking about HPE with Aruba earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's give me a console, let me click a button, let me drag and drop, and make my life easier. Better yet, do it for me. Use co-pilots and use all of these other tools to do my job for me. I'm a really smart guy. I've got a million things to do. I don't want to have to worry about syntax and semantics to figure out how I go about provisioning this storage or enabling access to this data set for an application. I don't have time for that, right? Let me be a consultant that I'm supposed to be to the business and not somebody who's just kind of a specialist. That's what Pure is doing. They've done a fantastic job. That's why they're growing their enterprise storage business while mostly everybody else is losing business. And while everybody is focused on AI, they're focused on kind of the core challenges that every enterprise IT organization has. Love what they're doing. Love the story. Check out the Forbes piece. It's really interesting.
Nice.
I'll leave it at that.
Nice plug, Matt. Well done.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man.
What about universal credits, Matt?
What's that?
Universal
credits. Oh, yeah. So that's one of those kind of rationalizing your costs. So here's the deal with universal credits, Paul. This is really cool. It's a simple little. It's a seemingly simple little thing that really helps organizations. So with universal credits, so you have different products that you buy on a subscription basis, and you buy them with credits, and you have 100 credits for product A, 100 credits for product B, 100 credits for product C, right? Let's say product A, you use 80 credits, right? At the end of that subscription period, you just left 20 credits on the table that you paid for that you never used, right? Let's say product B, you undersubscribed and you actually needed 120 credits. Well, then you had to go back and you had to buy 20 additional credits to cover for that. And you buy them for more than what you agreed to for the 100 credit price. Mm-hmm. And then product C was just, whatever, right? What universal credits allows you to do is have one big block of credits that you can apply across the board. So you're not leaving money on the table at the end of every subscription. So that in that situation I just described, I could have taken 20 credits from subscription A and moved them over to subscription B to cover my cost. So it's a more efficient use of my budget to make everything a little bit more affordable. What I would love to see them do is do this intra company, but across organizations. So like if I'm a state and take the state of Florida, they have 39 agencies. That's 39 budget centers. I would love to be able to see those credits go from agency A to agency B or agency B to agency C as needed for affordability purposes, in special circumstances. Not from company to company, but certainly within an organization. I would love to see that as well. And maybe that'll happen.
But Matt, do you think could that potentially sort of wreck kind of the profitability model?
Well, I mean, if you asking if it kind of eats into the profits of Pure? Oh, for sure, right? But this is the thing about that company. They're really, I think and if you know them and if you get to know them and the folks there, you're like, oh, I get it, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to do is they're trying to make life easier for enterprise IT. And the general sense I get from them is we're making plenty of profit.
Yeah.
We believe, number one, we believe we can take a little less profit to make our customers happier,
Right.
because that makes them more loyal, and it makes them want to consume more, and it makes us more attractive to other customers, right? So
Sure.
what I might lose on one deal is it pays dividends down the line from a kind of market expansion perspective.
Yeah, and they're doing what's right for the customer, right? And it's funny. I was just speaking with Fastly. So Todd Nightingale, former Cisco exec, is now the CEO there, and they have a similar, sort of a similar, vision and mission, and I've been spending a lot of time with them. I'm doing a little bit of advisory work, and it's like, wow, it's like you could really monetize a lot of this stuff, but you don't. And their response is, we believe we're doing what's needed for the customer, and that's enough, right? So it's a different mentality for sure.
Yeah. Here's what I think's going on too, Will, is especially with AI, the non-AI IT budgets are flat to down across the board. And that's why when you look at Dell or Lenovo, or not Lenovo did pretty well, but Dell or HPE or some of these others, or even Cisco's a good example, right? Dell, I think, was up 38 or 39% year over year from a revenue perspective, but their profit was something. And when you pull AI out of that revenue number, they're actually down, right? And they're not. It's everybody is in that position.
Yeah.
So if I'm a friend to you when things are a little bit difficult, right? It's going to make you far more loyal to me when things are good, right?
Yeah. That's a great point.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So that's where we are. Round out on the pure front, and I guess the larger market front. And that was a good plug, by the way, for Fastly. I like that. Way to go.
Thank you.
Let's go on to our final discussion point, and that is our top 3 list. So I'm going to let the audience know I gave these guys a little bit of a heads up before the show.
I still would have killed it though, Kimball. Yeah, I mean, this is right up my alley.
You always do. You always do. Even when killing is not necessary, you kill it.
Yes.
So here's the question for today. Top 3 comedic movies, top 3 funniest movies you've seen throughout your life. Let's start with Paul, because we always start. No, let's start with Will. I think we started with Paul last time. Let's start with Will this time.
All right, cool.
What are your top 3, Will?
So I'm going to try to do these in order, but there's so many great ones out there, and I love comedies, and especially Will Ferrell. I could probably list 6, but I got to go. I mean, Dumb and Dumber is up there. It's just it's such a classic. I love the line, when they're heading the opposite direction and they're looking for the Rocky Mountains, and the line is like, that John Denver's full of shit, man. I thought the Rocky Mountains were a lot rockier. So I love that. I love that movie. Who doesn't love Anchorman? I mean, my God, so many quotable lines with Will Ferrell and just that ensemble cast. I love Lamp, just a classic line there. But I gotta say, my favorite comedy of all time, it's also Will Ferrell. Ricky Bobby, Talladega Nights is pretty good, but I gotta go with Step Brothers. I mean, this is a movie that my wife Megan and we watch frequently. I think she and I have watched it 50, 60 times together. It never gets old. And Kimball, don't touch my drum set.
I'm not even going to touch that one. I'm not even going to touch that one. All right. I like that. I like it. What do you got, Paul? Oop, I think you're on mute there, Paul.
As he adjusts the camera.
Yeah, Paul, you're on mute.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, the only 2 I came up with really was Dumb and Dumber, of course, but Mr. Bean.
Mr. Bean.
I think the Mona Lisa segment was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Very good.
And drawing his pants. Yeah.
I'll say also, Mr. Bean does a cameo in Love Actually, where he's He's doing like the Christmas wrapping for one of the characters.
Oh, that's right.
It's awesome.
He is hilarious. He is a hilarious comedic actor. With that said, Mr. Bean and kind of the physical kind of comedy thing, I have some weird ones. My first one is it's Abbott and Costello and Buck Privates. So when I was younger, every Sunday after Sunday Mass, I'd come home, and at 10:30 on Channel 38 in Boston, every Sunday there was a Abbott and Costello movie, and I love them all. But Buck Private, to this day, I can watch and I still laugh. Their physical comedy, I think it was the best out there, personally. Part 2 is another weird one, kind of physical comedy, and it's Don Knotts, the ghost in Mr. Chicken.
Oh my God. You're like reminding me of my childhood, man. Like I remember all those movies with, Don Knotts and
oh man, give him hell, Luther. I mean, that guy was absolutely hilarious. And the expressions he would make, there was so much comedy that, wasn't like just in your face, and it wasn't like super dirty. It was just funny. And the third is Better Off Dead with John Q. Now I'm going to go with 16 Candles.
Oh, 16 Candles is great.
16 Candles. Because you guys, I had a Farrelly Brothers in my head, something about Mary, but I'm going to go with 16 Candles. That thing made me laugh from the very beginning to the very end. So,
classic movie.
Those are my 3. All right. So
Donga need food. See, I can quote these movies all day long, man.
Farmer Ted, come on, man.
Farmer Ted. Underwear, female underwear. Okay, I think I just jumped the shark on that one. I'm sorry.
No, that was great.
I want to apologize to our viewers and listeners out there.
That was Will. So, with that said, if you didn't like this podcast, it's all Will's fault. And get on social media and blame him. But anyway, hey guys, thank you for hanging out, for chatting. Fun discussion, lots of good stuff. We're going to remind our viewers, do not take anything we say as an investment advice. Take it as our thoughts on what's going on in the world and unique and interesting perspectives. Part 1. Part 2, if you liked us, please, if you enjoyed this, please like us on LinkedIn, Twitter, everywhere, and follow us and tune in the next time. If you didn't like us, blame it on Paul. It's always his fault. And I guess we'll see you guys in about 2 more weeks. Yeah. And thanks for a great time, guys.
Yeah, it was fun.
Hey, guys.
Have a great weekend.
You too.